A very good morning. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to today's Hindu news analysis, where we shall pick up exam relevant topics from the Hindu New Delhi edition for today, that is 20th August 2025. And here on your screen is a set of about 5 articles, two of which I have picked up from page 9, that's the editorial page. As these articles are quite detailed, let's break them down from a more UPSC mains perspective. Then we do have 3 other articles which are shorter, so let's consider them on a factual basis, on the basis of the data that they have, which can be used easily for your prelims as well as to add on to the mains answer writing. Alongside, I shall be presenting you with many UPSC practice questions for prelims as well as some PYQs. As always, my request would be to keep answering these questions and keep posting your answers in the comment box. For those of you who will answer all these questions correctly, I shall definitely speak to you in tomorrow's session, and also I shall provide you with these answers in tomorrow's session itself. Now, with regards to the PDF, by today I will enable the PDF link as well, so that for all these articles, you can get a one-stop link where you can download the material, you can use it for your answer writing, and that shall make your preparation more easy. So let's now begin with the agenda, and the first article for the day that we shall be discussing for UPSC exam is coming from page number 9. As I said, the editorial page. The article is talking about a chronic problem in India's healthcare domain. This problem is nothing but the problem of malnourishment, hidden hunger, the problem of acute food deprivation. So before we talk about what the article has to say, let's do a quick GS topic mapping from UPSC syllabus. And yes, this corresponds with your GS paper 2. We are talking about health education of women and children. And all of these are the vulnerable segment. Now, many a times my students ask me a question that, ma'am, what's the difference between vulnerable communities and minority communities? There is a huge overlap when we talk about minority segment and the vulnerable segment. But please understand that in India, the Indian constitution only recognizes, it only acknowledges two type of minority communities. One that is linguistic minority and the other that is religious minority. Whereas when we talk about vulnerable segments, these happen to be those who may not be directly mentioned in the constitution in terms of any benefit or reservation for them. But indeed, these correspond to the women, children, geriatric population above the age of 60. We talk about the scheduled caste, scheduled tribal population, the OBC, of course, people with benchmark disabilities, as well as the third or the transgender segment. Hence, these are overlapping categories. Yes, the minorities do face vulnerability, and the vulnerable communities are in minority. And yet, these are two separate categories. This article actually talks about the vulnerable community. It mentions about the health and education of women as well as children. Therefore, GS paper 2, social justice. Of course, it is also GS paper 3 because your GS paper 3 talks about poverty. It talks about deprivation. Today we understand that poverty is no more considered as income poverty. Lack of salary or income is not the only way we measure poverty. Ever since 2021, in India, owing to the efforts of the Niti Aayog, we call poverty as the multidimensional poverty. Poverty that is based on 12 indicators of deprivation, not only including low income, also including lack of sanitation, lack of banking access, lack of clean drinking water, education, healthcare, and many more parameters. So therefore, GS paper 3 matches with this topic. It is about poverty, multidimensional poverty, as well as sustainable development goals. Specifically, the Sustainable Development Goals number 2 and 3 that talk about fighting hunger, promoting well-being of all the citizens across the world by 2030. If this is the topic of the article, Let's quickly see what the article has to say. Before that, a very good morning, Rishi, a very good morning, Mamta, a very good morning, the other candidate with the code name. Okay, the article talks about stunting. Now, let's understand that hunger is a very, very complicated problem. Yesterday, I told you, hunger corresponds to a deficiency of total calorie intake. When a human being is not getting the daily recommended amount of calories, the number of calories, that is called as hunger. This is measured in terms of quantity, number of calories needed to be functional. There are other components to this hunger. The other components are hidden hunger. As I said yesterday, sometimes the number of calories can be enough. The quality of these calories are not good. You are primarily eating sugary, carbohydrate rich foods, which also means you will be malnourished, you will be undernourished, you will be experiencing hidden hunger or protein hunger. That also contributes to ill health. Apart from that, there are two more concepts used in India. One is called as stunting and the other is called as wasting. This article talks specifically about the problem of stunting. I will explain multidimensional poverty. That's a good question. Before that, what do you mean by stunting? The article talks about stunting, saying that a child who is considered too short in terms of height for his or her age due to chronic or repeated episodes of malnourishment is a stunted child, where the height is not developing as per the age of the child. It is a result of long term food deprivation. It is not about short term hunger. It is about chronic malnourishment or undernourishment. Now, as per the World Health Organization's global nutrition targets, as well as Sustainable Development Goal 2, that talks about achieving zero hunger by 2030, as well as SDG 3, that talks about good health and well-being for global citizens by 2030. These are the global targets we believe in today. Now, India also, inspired by these targets, had initiated back in 2018 its very ambitious Poshan Abhiyan. Poshan Abhiyan means Eat Right Mission, Food Mission, Nutrition Mission. This was initiated back in 2018. What was the main aim of this Poshan Abhiyan? The main target was to reduce stunting among Indian children by 25%. It should be brought down to 25% by 2022. Now, that was a very ambitious target. Stunting should be reduced to 25% among Indian children by 2022 itself. All this because India is highly inspired by the SDG 2 and 3 and by the World Health Organization's global nutrition targets. But did we achieve the result? The article is saying it was a very ambitious plan. India should have had a longer term vision. The Poshan Abhiyan said we have three targets: short term, medium term, long term. One of the most important short term targets was to reduce stunting among Indian children by 20 to 25% by 2022 in just a matter of 4 years. But unfortunately, the progress has not been made. Today also Indian children are experiencing huge stunting problem. The result is very visible. From 2022 to let's say 2025, has there been any proper improvement in the number of children who are experiencing stunting? Not really. Let's say 2016, the number of children in India who were stunted, who had less growth, less height as compared to their age parameter, they were about 38.4%. That's a lot of children. As we say 2025, the number has reduced only to 37%, which means just 1% reduction in entire stunting. Is that a sufficient achievement? It is not a good achievement. So therefore, the Poshan Abhiyan was not able to achieve the major goal that it had made. Article is saying stunting is not the most important problem here. The problem is that stunting is only a symptom of a much larger problem. It is like the tip of an iceberg. Whereas the real problem is rooted among other complex health issues in India, which range from poor maternal health, poor sanitation, poor adolescent hygiene, very, very poor clean drinking water. Apart from that, acute poverty, lack of diet diversity. These are the reasons which come together, and the results, of course, are stunting, wasting, malnutrition, and hunger. A very good question came my way from one of the aspirants who is asking, what do you even mean by multidimensional poverty? Multidimensional poverty, as the name suggests, is an approach where we see poverty as a very, very complicated and a multifaceted problem. We believe that poverty is not about only economic deprivation. Somebody who has less salary, less money is poor. That's an age old concept. Initiated by United Nations Development Program and Oxford University, the concept of multidimensional poverty says that a person who is poor is not poor only because of lack of income or salary. He or she is poor because they lack many different kind of facilities to live a decent life. This could include lack of education, it could include poor sanitation, it could include lack of a concrete house. It could also include lack of vaccination, bank account, clean cooking fuel. Therefore, from 2021, India's Niti Aayog, the National Institution for Transforming India, has created India's own multi-dimensional poverty index, which is often in the news as MDPI. This measures poverty across 12 indicators or 12 factors. Hence, multidimensional poverty is a broader concept. Today, we do not see poverty as less money, we see it as a broader deprivation, which disables a person from living a decent quality of life. I hope that point was clear to you. Yes, definitely. Absolutely. The midday meal scheme can go a long way. But then again, there are political problems in the midday scheme also. We can talk about it in a separate episode, but that's a valid point made by you. That's well said. Okay, so let's get back to the article. If this is the level of stunting in India in 2025, shocking it is. About 37% of children are stunted. The plan of Poshan Abhiyan was very ambitious, but unfortunately, we could not achieve much. So, now what to do? Can we understand the real reasons or the real causes of stunting in India? Article says there are 4 to 5 main causes, the biggest one being maternal health and teenage pregnancy. Let's understand that in India, even today, nearly 7% of all the women, young girls in the age of 15 to 19 years, are already getting pregnant. They are already in the childbearing age, which is too early by global medical standards. This is the data given by National Family Health Survey, the most comprehensive coverage of India's social economic problems. And this is the latest update of 2019 to 2021, one of the latest updates. When 7% young girls are experiencing pregnancy, added to it is the problem that 57% among them are already anemic. They are a victim of malnourishment. They have zero knowledge about family planning, birth control. What happens to such children who are born to these young mothers? Naturally, these children are born underweight. They have a very low Apgar score. Apgar score is a score that is used to measure the health of a newborn child in terms of head circumference, waist circumference, body height, weight, everything. In India, the Apgar score is among the lowest in the world. Why? Because these are children of young mothers who do not have any awareness even about vaccine or lactation. What is the result? Naturally, we have children who grow up to be stunted. Education of mothers is another problem. 46% of children who are children of mothers who are illiterate, uneducated, semi educated. Here, the problem is that mothers themselves have hardly had 12 years of schooling. Barely they have had continuous formal schooling. This points out to another routine problem in India. The problem of school dropout rate being very high among rural girls in India. Young girls who are getting enrolled into government schools as a part of Article 21A, right to education. They drop out from the school immediately as soon as they reach 6th or 7th grade, that is secondary school. Some of them get married, some of them go into the labor force, agriculture labor, construction work, owing to poverty, the lack of capacity of parents to send the children to school. Sometimes religious, cultural taboos come in the picture. The result is that young girls are very high when it comes to school dropout. These girls then get married early. The children born to them again do not receive adequate supplement, adequate vaccine. This also promotes stunting among children. Another reason is the lack of proper institutional care in India, institutional health care in India. Now, unfortunately, the number of cesarean sections, the number of women who are giving birth through operation, surgery, a cesarean section has risen from 9% to 22% in just 2006 to 2021. This shows a huge grey area in medical healthcare in India because these children who are born as a result of unnecessary C-section or cesarean surgeries are also the children who do not receive breast milk. What happens then? 64% of children, babies, infants under the age of 6 months are being exclusively fed on mother's milk. Whereas World Health Organization says it is important that young children under the age of 6 months only exclusively being given mother's milk because mother's milk is rich in colostrum, a kind of natural protein that gives immunity to the baby. But that's not happening because these are young mothers. Plus, they are delivering through operations. The natural process doesn't kick in, neither do they have the awareness. What is the result? India happens to be one of the highest countries which has a very high infant mortality rate too. Young children, young babies under 6 months or 1 year, they die. Obviously, owing to the fact that they do not get either vaccine or mother's milk. So, you see, these are certain reasons that are responsible for high stunting among Indian children. What can missions like Poshan Abhiyan do to tackle this problem until the root cause is solved, as per the article? Article also says there is another huge problem of the informal segment of the economy. Now, at least women who are working in the formal sector of the economy, multinational companies, government jobs, they get maternity leave, they get menstrual leave. Remember how Kerala and Bihar became two such unique states which started providing menstrual leave to women. Sometimes women in the formal sector, they have access to daycare to their children, all of those benefits they receive. But the problem is that the informal sector, which is employing majority women employees, it doesn't offer any social security. No maternity benefit, no maternity leave, no menstrual leave, no health insurance policy. What do children of such mothers do? Who continue to work until the last day of their delivery, until the last day of their pregnancy. Naturally, owing to hard physical labor, children are subject to born with disabilities. Apart from that, they hardly have the time to come home and take care of their children. For them, working is compulsory. They have to earn money. All these are together creating this main problem. And then, of course, there are reasons like poor diet quality. Yesterday, I spoke to you about how the Green Revolution in India did a wonderful job. It solved the problem of India's food security. At the same time, it had a latent impact also, a side effect also. It created carbohydrate increase in India's diet. Today there is another article in the Hindu, editorial front page. I have not taken that up because I will provide you a PDF of that. There is nothing very analytical about that article. The article just talks about Dr. M.S. Swaminathan, the person who was the torch bearer of Green Revolution in India, inspired by Norman Borlaug, the Mexican scientist. That article also says the same thing, that Green Revolution has solved India's food security problem. At the time when India was really grappling with so many wars with China, Pakistan, and all of that, there was hardly any food independence that we had that time. We were completely dependent on American imports of wheat and rice. It was at that point of time that Green Revolution made things easy for us. But what was the side effect? Side effect was a complete dependence on wheat, rice, millets, fruits, vegetables, all these completely went off. They disappeared from Indian palates. That's what the article is also saying, this article. It says only 11% children under 2 years of age are getting diversity of food, macro and micronutrients, proteins and essential fatty acids, amino acids. Rest of them are all either consuming wheat or rye or sugary starches. What happens then? Your diet is low in protein. You have low muscle mass. Your health outcomes are bound to go wrong as you grow up. You are prone to getting diseases like insulin resistant, diabetes, cardiovascular problems. Obviously, yes, because you lack those nutrition, right? So, a very good example here is that some states are saying that under the government's midday meal scheme, PN Poshan Nirman scheme, school children will be given eggs to increase their protein uptake. But even then, there is a political controversy in India. Just about 4 years back in Karnataka, a huge controversy has emerged. In Karnataka, the NGO that prepares food to be distributed in the government schools under the midday meal scheme, the modern PM Poshan Nirman scheme, is Akshay Patra Foundation. A lot of people in the state started fighting with the Akshay Patra. They said that we cannot give eggs to children because Indian culture doesn't allow non-veg. Let's not give eggs. Let's replace it with banana. Again, the concept of religion came in between. Egg was removed. Children were served bananas instead of eggs. What was the result? Can you imagine? The school enrollment rate itself fell down. Why? Because for children who are coming from such poor backgrounds, nutrition is a necessity, it is not a luxury. It is a proven fact that health outcomes always determine educational outcomes, and that determines employment outcomes. The vicious cycle triggers right from childhood. These children in the Anganwadi meals also are not getting enough protein. They are being served poor quality food. And then we say, why are children in India stunted? These are the reasons. The last thing is sanitation and infection. 19% households in India, as per the National Family Health Survey, NFHS 2019 to 2021, still practice open defecation. Back in 2015, we were talking about the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. In 2021, we once again launched Swachh Bharat Abhiyan as Swachh Bharat Abhiyan Health and Wellbeing Vertical 2.0. Second wave. What was the benefit? 19% people, households are still into open defecation. So, what does this mean? If people practice open defecation, they do not have access to toilets, they are resistant to using toilets. They will keep on getting infections like diarrhea, cholera, typhoid. Once again, they experience malnourishment. Once again, they depend on medication. Not only does that add up to the GDP burden in healthcare, it also leads to mortality among children and women, particularly among young children. So then, this vicious cycle actually worsens the problem of malnourishment, stunting, wasting, mortality. This is what the article is saying. So now, if this is the severity of the situation, what are the impacts of this stunting in India? Impacts are very clear. Children who are victims of malnourishment will never have the same cognitive level, the same level of understanding, analyzing, and learning as their healthier counterparts will have. Children who are subject to malnourishment will have unhealthy children. Girls who are malnourished will give birth to malnourished, underweight children. Again, that's a vicious cycle. Such people will not be able to perform well in the job market because they lack cognitive skill in the first place. Last but not the least, it perpetuates a particular kind of poverty called intergenerational poverty. Now, poverty also, as a part of GS paper 3, can be of many kinds. There is absolute poverty, there is relative poverty, there is secondary poverty, and then there is intergenerational poverty. What is intergenerational poverty? When within the same family, multiple generations continue to stay poor, they cannot break out of that cycle. That is called intergenerational poverty. Naturally, if children are stunted, they grow up as malnourished adults. They again give birth to children who are malnourished. The same cycle keeps on getting repeated. Then, how can such people escape intergenerational poverty? Is it not a wastage of India's demographic dividend? Is it not a wastage of human resource? The only resource that India actually can claim of in today's difficult times. That's what the article says. Now, why has India failed to meet the targets of Poshan Abhiyan then? Clearly, one reason is it was an over-ambitious plan. We should have delayed the target by at least 2030 and focused more on creating panchayat level, Anganwadi level, Asha worker level awareness among poor populations. We should have done better in terms of advertising and marketing through radio campaigning, through Facebook and other social media platforms, WhatsApp circulations, to encourage women to go to public healthcare clinics, to actually demand basic vaccines, to go and try to identify the schemes that are made for them. Make them aware, about the benefit of right vaccine, right supplementation, right kind of food. That's not being done. Another thing is that there is inadequate effort that has been put into efforts like maternal health and adolescent girls' health. In India, menstruation is today also a topic of taboo. That is extremely unfortunate. When we talk about reproductive health care, it should be mandatory in the school education itself that young girls are taught the value of menstrual hygiene and proper sanitation and hygiene. If they are healthy, only then will they grow up to be healthy mothers, isn't it? So at the end of the day, it boils down to chronic social problems like child marriage, school dropout, religious cultural taboos towards problems like menstruation, birth control, family planning. And of course, there is poverty and caste that comes into picture. All these together have created this situation that 37% children in India today are stunted. So talking about your UPSC exam, you might get a question in the mains GS paper 2, 1 or 3. What are the main reasons behind high level of stunting and wasting among Indian children? Or the question can also say, why do you think the targets of PM Poshan Abhiyan or the Poshan Eat Right mission in India, they were not met as envisaged by the government? Any of this question can come. Let me follow this up with a prelims question for your practice. As I promised, I will give you the answer tomorrow. In the meantime, please try to answer the question. Okay, the question says, with reference to child stunting in India, consider the following statements. 1. Nearly half of stunted children in India are already small at birth. As I told you, they have a very low Apgar score. Sometimes prelims question can ask you these abstract medical terms. What is Apgar score related to? It's related to newborns. It measures their health and their physical parameter. Okay. Second says mother's education has no significant relationship with prevalence of stunting among children. Third says anemia. That's two types of anemia. Lack of hemoglobin, lack of folate among women, and open defecation. Practices contribute to stunting in children. And last, only about 1/10 of Indian children under the age of 2 receive minimum acceptable diet. You can pick the statements which are correct by choosing the codes A, B, C, D. Post your answer. Let me read out your answer with your names tomorrow along with the right answer. Let's now go to another article for the day, and this article is again page number 8, editorial page. Topic is India's climate taxonomy framework. Now, this may look a little new to you. Okay, this might look new to you because climate taxonomy is a new concept that is emerging in the global climate discourse, but very crucial. Let's do a quick topic mapping from UPSC syllabus. We say that this is coming from GS paper 2 because we are talking about international agreements here, such as the Paris Agreement against climate change. What else? Yes, we are talking about GS paper 3. Why? Because we are talking about concepts like climate finance. Now, climate finance and climate taxonomy are two topics which are very important for GS paper 3. You may get a question in the mains. I am sure you will because these are emerging concepts. Absolutely valid answer. Rishi as well as the other candidate. Shaggy. Correct answer. That's valid. Yes, Mamta, that's correct. Brilliant. Well done. Keep the good work on. Good. Okay, so if these are the topic mappings, then let's see what is the article talking about. So this is a new concept, as I said. The article is saying that India has made a pledge. India has made a promise. What is this promise India has made? Now, this promise India has made is to achieve net zero carbon emission. That we will not emit any carbon. We will make our carbon footprint zero. So, net zero carbon emission we shall achieve by 2070. That is one thing India has said. By 2070, we shall achieve net zero carbon emission. Another thing India is saying is that we will reduce our intensity of GDP by 45%, which means reduce the emission intensity of GDP by more than 45% just by 2030. So that is again a very great target, that by 2030, the emission intensity, okay, these are important words to remember, you can use them in your answer. Emission intensity of GDP shall be reduced by 45%. Plus, there are two more things. India says we will also increase the share and the usage of non-fossil fuel sources of energy like solar energy, natural gas and hydroelectric power, as well as nuclear power. Plus, last but not the least, we will also focus on creating a new concept called climate finance. Now, what is climate finance? What is climate finance? Article begins by telling you two, three things. One thing is that by 2070, we will completely make our carbon emission zero. We will not do any kind of carbon emission by 2070. Second thing important to remember is that by 2030, the carbon intensity of our GDP will go down by 45%. These are huge targets. Plus, we will stop using fossil fuels like kerosene, petrol, diesel. No more solid fuel. Okay? No more solid fuel. We will go for solar energy, hydro energy, nuclear power, and energies that are based on absolutely clean sources. That's the target. Then what is the problem? The problem is that for this we need to achieve one new thing that is called climate finance. What is climate finance? Before understanding climate finance, we need to understand another concept called climate taxonomy. Article says that if we want to achieve millions of dollars in climate finance, we have to solve one challenge, and that challenge is to create a perfect climate taxonomy. But what do you even mean by taxonomy? Taxonomy is a common word. Taxonomy in English stands for classification. When we say taxonomy, we are saying a kind of classification system. Okay? Here, climate taxonomy means a classification system to identify which investments in our economy are genuinely oriented towards achieving zero carbon emission. Some companies are actually doing a concept that is known as greenwashing. You may have heard of this concept. They are cheating the customers. For example, I am the manufacturer of a watch, a wristwatch brand. I claim that I am a company that is completely into green production, green manufacturing. My production process, my distribution, my manufacturing does not do any carbon emission. But what if I am lying? What if there is no proof that I am saying the truth? How will you, as a consumer, as my customer, believe me? Why should you believe me? Maybe I am saying that I am not doing any carbon emission, but in reality, maybe my carbon emission is very high, which I am not disclosing to the public or to other stakeholders. This concept of deluding the people, lying to the people, creating a fraud among people that we as a company are completely clean is called as greenwashing. Today, greenwashing has become very, very common in the economy. There are so many manufacturers who are claiming to do zero carbon emission, but in reality, their carbon footprint is very high. That is causing a lack of trust among the public. The government is also feeling helpless. That is why we need a system called climate taxonomy. Under climate taxonomy, we will create a solid rule book. It will be a rule book It will be a proper classification system. It will be a proper protocol system. The purpose is that this will decide that which company is actually adhering to the law in principle and which companies are simply greenwashing the public. The purpose is to create a system to identify which investments are genuinely climate aligned to bring clarity, credibility, consistency to climate finance in India. Before private sector companies and the government are ready to invest in a company, are ready to promote a company, they should have some proof whether that company is genuinely into clean production process, or is the company trying to fool the government or the private sector companies by taking funding in the name of clean energy, but in reality they are doing greenwashing? Who knows the reality? To create this clarity, we have created the concept of climate taxonomy. So what is climate finance taxonomy in a very short way? It is a kind of rule book or a classification system. Today it is needed very badly because new concepts like carbon trading, green bonds are now gaining popularity in India. India is becoming global leader as one of the largest economies. We need to set an example for other countries when it comes to sustainable climate finance program. So therefore, today the need for climate finance taxonomy is there. It identifies, climate taxonomy is based on the principle of identifying which companies are ready to mitigate, adapt, or change towards climate friendly production, manufacturing, distributing processes. It will track which sector, which technology, which firm, which organization is actually being honest when it comes to its zero carbon emission footprint. Similarly, the purpose is to now encourage the private sector companies, allow more foreign direct investment, encourage the government itself to finance exclusively such sectors who are being very honest and transparent about their carbon footprint. Second thing is we have to stop greenwashing, because greenwashing is a waste of money. It's a pure waste of money. Okay? Absolutely. That's a very valid point you have created. Very valid point. It is ultimately about hypocrisy of the governments, about the companies, and that's the purpose of climate taxonomy, to make sure that companies are not allowed to delude the public and no more greenwashing should be permitted. That's a very valid point. Yes, of course. Now, of course, another thing is that we need to provide this clarity in terms of a taxonomy rule book, that you please look at the rule book and then decide whether you want to invest in this company or not. Do not imagine, do not go behind their fake advertisement or marketing propaganda just by saying that I am a brand who is climate friendly. My packaging, my materials, my ingredients, my advertising is not using any kind of carbon, or it is not creating any kind of emission, is not sufficient. The investor has to have clarity. The policy makers have to have clarity about actually how much have I followed the rule. Proper investigation will be done. Proper monitoring will be done. Proper testing of samples will be done under this new concept of climate finance taxonomy. This the government has called as the living framework. Why the living framework? It is as good as a living thing. It is not a dead framework. Once created, close the chapter. Not like that. Once this taxonomy is made public, it will be like a living framework. The government will keep revising it every 5 years to every 10 years to make sure that the companies and the taxonomy, they adhere to the evolving climate situation. We never know 5 years later what the climate demand will be, how much the global warming will be. So therefore, it will evolve itself as per priorities, as per India's own carbon emission obligations. Now, the review is a very important part of this taxonomy. The government says time to time, that is, as I mentioned, within a period of 5 years to every year, annual review to longer term reviews, 10 years, there shall be a proper investigation about how much is the taxonomy being implemented in production process across different companies, different sectors of the economy. What are the gaps? What are the feedbacks? What are the punishments to be given to people who are not adhering to the protocol? Similarly, 5 year review will also be done to make sure that India's zero net carbon emission by 2070 is respected. Apart from that, it should also match with India's own laws, such as Energy Conservation Act, India's carbon credit trading system. All of these have to be taken care of. We don't want any bureaucratic delays. We don't want any corruption here. So the purpose of the framework is to create such a commitment that from now onwards, whatever is produced within Indian economy, across various formal sectors, across various informal sectors, across the government finance sectors, it has to be clean, it has to be zero carbon, it has to align and follow to the letter and spirit everything that's highlighted in the carbon taxonomy rulebook. That's the purpose. Only then can we achieve a higher stake in climate financing. Because for anybody to put money in your business, clarity is needed. This policy only aims to do that. If the producer and the manufacturer is ready to give that clarity, yes, climate funding will come. In fact, more funding will come to those companies who are ready to follow climate protocols. That's the pitch of this article. Okay, so do we need more clarity in terms of this taxonomy? Yes. The government also says keep the words very simple so that industries in the MSME sector, in the small scale sector, they are also able to understand and follow these norms. Use proper data, use proper quantitative methods so that people know what is the right level of emission, what is higher than normal, and what is acceptable level of emission. Again, make sure that a permanent department is created within the Ministry of Finance. Any expert committee is also fine, which is taking care that regularly public bulletins are issued and the general public is also made aware about the implementation, about the inputs, about the tracking of how much has the government achieved in the form of climate taxonomy system. That's the pitch of this article. Now to the question. This question I am bringing to you from UPSC 2018 PYQ. It's a very relatable question. It says Momentum for Change, Climate Neutral Now is an initiative launched by which of the following? Is it A, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the IPCC? Is it B, the UNEP, United Nations Environment Programme Secretariat? Is it C, UNFCCC Secretariat? Or is it D, the World Meteorological Organization? It's a very easy question. Why I got a PYQ is just to show you sometimes how direct questions can also come from topics like these. Try to answer the question. You can post your answers in the comment box. Let's proceed with a slightly more short article. And this article is coming from page number 10. Now, this is a very interesting topic for the day. If you would ask me which UPSC syllabus topic should I match, absolutely valid answer. Great job. Yes, Shaggy, that's the valid answer. Yes, Mamta, that's correct. Yes, Rishi, that's absolutely valid answer. Excellent. Talking about UPSC syllabus, this article on your page right now is coming from GS paper 2 because we are talking about international relations, particularly US and India relations. Now, you might be thinking that every day you are studying US-India relations, so what is new here? But this is a new article. It has a very new perspective on India-US relation. Third thing is it is also related to GS paper 3 because it talks about economic concepts like trade deficit. It discusses about import duties, tariffs, and another interesting concept called demographic dividend. This is the topic mapping of the article. What does the article say? Well, the key issue covered in the article is that, as we all know, from August 2025 onwards, US government led by Donald Trump had imposed 25% tariffs on India, which means all goods that are exported from India to the US market would be subjected to 25% extra tariff, making Indian goods and services very expensive in American market. If they are double the price, nobody would buy them. What does it mean? It means the demand for Indian goods and services in US market will die. What happens? Obviously, Indian exports to the US will decrease. India will experience a trade deficit, which means India's imports from the US will be much higher than India's exports to the US, creating a deficit in the balance of trade called trade deficit. That was the problem. But that was not the only problem. Immediately after that, US government came and said, because you, as India, as a country who is my chief friend and ally, is also importing Russian crude oil and Russian gas, I will punish you by imposing another 25% tariff on you. So, total by the end of August, we all know that our tariff imposed by the US has become 50%. Now, just 2 days, 3 days back, US President met Vladimir Putin, Russian President. Alaska summit happened. India was thinking that maybe after this negotiation, US tries to go back, become a little soft on us, cancel the 25% extra penalty. But that didn't happen either. We still live in the same dark reality. US has imposed 50% tariff on us. Now this is shocking because it is actually 10 times more than what it used to be earlier. Earlier, US tariffs on India was barely 2 to 3%. That was the average tariff. No wonder India had a huge export market in America. It was a profitable trade. I've told you multiple times, India US are having one of the highest bilateral trade in the world. US is India's largest export market also, but that was earlier. Now today, as we stand on August 2025, things are changing, no? 50% tariff is too much. Who will buy Indian product? Nobody will buy. This is the situation. In this situation, the article is saying that how come American president did not reduce our punishment, but it went on to reduce China's punishment. Initially, on China, America imposed a tariff of 145% and later became very soft and reduced it from 145% to a mere 30%. Talking about other countries, it further gave them a timeline. All this even when these countries are also importing Russian oil, but still there is a kind of sympathy towards them. For us, there is no such sympathy right now. It is only India and Brazil who are experiencing such a massive punishment and penalty of tariff. So now what to do? What is the result? We know the result. Yes, there is trade deficit, particularly across sectors like textile, pharmaceuticals, and IT services. India's export competitiveness in the US market is very, very threatened today. All the orders are being cancelled. Our manufacturers are ready. They are in a position to face massive loss in future. Apart from that, job losses will also happen as businesses will also close down. All the exporters to the US market, what will they manufacture when there is no demand? At the same time, look at the hypocrisy of US. US is demanding more access into India's agriculture, particularly the dairy segment. Once again, they are trying to threaten us because this then also endangers the prospects of India's dairy farmers and horticultural farmers and mainstream farmers. So what should India do when Indian products are losing demands? What to do now? In this situation where China will definitely take advantage, China's tariff has come down from 145 to 30. For India, there is no help. US is not helping us at all, but for China, there is a lot of sympathy right now. Now look at China's advantage over India. Anyways, China is a global leader when it comes to rare earth material. A material which is used in electronic vehicles, semiconductor, automobile across the globe. Already China is ruling that. Apart from that, China also dominates when it comes to textiles and machinery. A very small example as per the article, there is a very interesting data. Today, an interesting thing is that when you talk about US, the total US global export in machinery is about 36.3%. And when you talk about textile, it is about 24% global export. But look at India. In India, it is barely 4.4% and 0.9% respectively. So look at the gap. There is no comparison at all. And still this punishment was given to us. China is dominating the global supply chain. So this article is giving a fresh perspective. If this is the bad situation we are facing right now, is there any advantage India has over US? Do we have any such force in our hands with which we can counter this very, very economic attack by US government? Yes, there is. According to the article, believe it or not, India has the advantage of demographic dividend. Now, the word demographic dividend, coming from GS paper 3, of course, is like a benefit that a country has when a country's young working population is in majority. India has a very young population. Today, in a situation where countries like Japan, South Korea, even China, US, Russia, all of them are experiencing an old population phenomena. They are becoming silver economies. Silver economy is an economy which is dominated by the need of old people above 60 years of age. India is not like that. The average age of Indian people is 28 years. India is one of the youngest countries. We have a massive population in the age group of 15 to 49. This is called the young working population. And when a country has that, it has demographic dividend. Demographic is population, dividend is a benefit. This is the benefit we have. We have a young workforce, young human capital resource. We can capitalize on that. That's the best counter we can give to the US. Why? Because today, if you look at US as an economy, it will be amazing to notice that in the US itself, it is the IIT graduates from India, it is the engineers and doctors and entrepreneurs from India who are responsible behind United States of America's technological domination of the world. Whether it's AI computation or semiconductor technology, it is Indian workers who drive the economy. Second thing is that Indian immigrants, although in the entire American population, Indian immigrants are only 1%, but they are overrepresented in areas like research, academics, and entrepreneurship. Similarly, another interesting thing to note is that 120 million Indians, right now, 120 million Indians are enrolled in secondary and higher education colleges. This is the entire population of Japan itself. So you imagine the benefit that India has in terms of its population. Now, in this situation, can we not therefore pose a threat to the US if India suddenly plans to start going for brain gain rather than brain drain? Today, most of the highly qualified, highly income earning potential people are migrating to countries like US and UAE because of better tax structures, better life standard. But what if India creates more investment in human capital, better education, much more investment in higher specialized degree technical colleges, polytechnics? Would that not help in giving our population the skills and create a better job market? Would a higher earning population not create a better consumer base so that even if we have lesser export demand, we can have a higher internal demand, domestic demand can be increased? Similarly, can we not also reciprocate by encouraging much more job creation through promoting low value outsourcing? That's a great step that we can take. Apart from that, we can definitely use our home market. Now, look at India's population. Even the rising middle class is a massive consumer base for Indian goods and services. The only problem is affordability. We can do multiple kind of solutions to that. Of course, we can think about more repo rate solutions, more cash reserve ratio solutions from the point of view of RBI. We can think about promoting better education, much more vocational skills so that more people enter business, their purchasing power increases. We can further create the concept of Atmanirbhar Bharat, Skilling India campaign, where most of the products that we usually import from other countries, whether it's pharmaceutical, whether it's textile, they can be created within our country because we do have the resource for that. Similarly, Indian government recently is giving a huge boost to rare earth mining. That is a great step. That is another article for the day also. That also means India will be more self-dependent when it comes to having raw material for semiconductors and electronic vehicles. Now, all these solutions, when taken together, can actually reduce our import dependence too. So, therefore, the future path is this only: invest better in human capital and try to create such a thing that why to lose talent when we have the capacity to actually bring back that talent and of course create an economy that's working on the principle of self dependence, self manufacturing, a more circular economy path. And it means when more people are better educated, When human resource is better talented, of course it will earn better. It will only create domestic demand, and therefore the sheer dependence that we have on countries like US, which keep shocking us, will definitely go down. So that's the benefit India has. Okay, so this is the entire perspective given in this article. Quite an interesting perspective, followed by a UPSC prelims question quickly. It says, with reference to the US tariff hikes on India in 2025, which of the following statements are valid? 1. India faces one of the highest US tariffs, that's 50%, along with Brazil. 2. India currently faces a highest US tariff rate. China currently faces a higher US tariff rate than India. It's an easy question. 3. US tariff hikes threaten India's competitiveness in areas like textiles, pharmaceutical, and IT services. And last, Indian exports are critical for managing India's external trade deficit. So, which of these statements are valid according to you? You can absolutely post your answer in the box. Yes, that's absolutely the valid reason, Mamta. That's well pointed out. Indeed, indeed, the tariff rate. That's the main reason. Absolutely correct. There are some internal reasons. We can take them up separately as well. But that's the main reason that you are talking about. And yes, that's a valid answer given. Shaggy, Mamta, Rishi, well done. I hope all others can also participate by keep posting your comment and let me know what do you feel is the valid answer. Now, the next article that we need to talk about is page number 13. It's a very short article. It's a quick read. And it says that the government has introduced a very interesting bill which will completely ban online gaming. So before this, the strategy was to regulate online gaming because it is almost like gambling. But today, the government has become stricter, especially in states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka. The government is saying we completely want to prohibit the online money gaming. It is nothing but a waste of time. It makes our young adolescent population addicted to online gambling. It is not leading to any skill development among our people. It's a bad habit. But some people are having a problem with this. They are saying that under Article 19 of Indian Constitution, there is a particular clause which gives people the freedom to engage in such games and activities. So is this move not anti-constitutional? That's the question we are asking. Quickly, a topic mapping. Doing the topic mapping, we can say yes, it comes from GS paper 3. Okay, we are talking about technology. Then of course GS paper 2. Because yes, we do talk about young population, we do talk about social problems, and this is indeed a social problem from GS paper 1 and 2, the problem of online money gambling. A very interesting article. It says online real money. Online real money, sometimes it is referred to as RMG, the real money game, is a booming industry in India. It is valued at several billion dollars today in 2025. Yeah, you can say that, Mamta. Yes, absolutely. That's the sentiment all Indians are sharing, Mamta. That's a valid point you're making there. Correct. So online gaming industry is a booming industry in India. Millions of dollars are going in this industry today. You have platforms like Dream 11, Poker Bazi, the online card game. All of these are attracting millions of young users every year. But it is raising another concern in India. Is it leading to the problem of internet addiction, depression, anxiety, financial losses to people, and ultimately tax evasion and gambling? That's the reason the government wants to create a bill known as Online Gaming Bill 2025, which is now completely prohibiting any kind of online money gaming where money is involved, gambling or betting is involved. What are the provisions of this new bill? The bill says any activity which involves depositing money online, creating expectation of winning a lottery or some kind of a money return, material rewards will be classified as monetary gaming. This covers very, very fancy words like sports game, card game, betting games, and other money oriented stakeholding games. Now, this is a strict law. Please understand, it is not regulating, it is prohibiting. It is completely putting a ban on online money game. Why is the government so angry with this online gaming platform? As I just said, consumers are at a risk of being addicted. They lose money. Ultimately, it leads to depressions and suicides among our young people. Come on, recently we were saying that we need to invest in a demographic dividend. And this is absolutely destroying your young population's potential. Government is not happy about it. Second thing is government is saying despite 28% GST limit on deposits, many companies are not reporting that kind of earning through online gaming. They take the benefit from consumers and they run away. Tax evasion is very high. How much will the enforcement directorate go behind online gamers and catch them? It's a waste. Then the problem is that many citizens are very angry about it. Citizens are not happy. Why are they not happy? They are using constitutional article to express their unhappiness. They are saying under Article 19, that is typically the right to freedom, there is a clause called Article 19(1)(g), which says people have a right to trade and game of chance is also allowed. We can play games which are games of chance, coincidence, luck. We win, sometimes we lose, but that's allowed. It is also allowed under the clause 1G of 19 article, which says it is a game of skill. It is allowed. But the government is saying, is online money gambling a game of skill? Is online money gambling about any skill? When you are betting your money, is it some intelligence or a talent that you are using? Absolutely not. It is not a game of skill. It is pure act of gambling. So therefore, you cannot highlight Article 19(1)(g) and say that no, online gambling is justified under this article. No, because this article only allows skill gaming, gaming of skill, where you are winning on the basis of your intelligence, some merit, some competition is involved. That's justified. But gambling and betting are not justifications under this article. So therefore, the government is saying, although gambling comes under state list. Now let's remember Schedule 7th of Indian Constitution. Yeah, Schedule 7th, which divides various topics under various lists, okay, among the union, state and the concurrent list. So gambling and betting come under entry 34 of the Indian Constitution. It's a state subject. So states are saying, why should union government regulate this today? States like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu have tried, but it is not working really. People are still finding ways and indulging in this practice. But the government is saying, no matter what anybody feels, no matter how angry citizens are, we need to do this regulation today. It is absolutely justified. Although it is a very controversial issue, but it should be justified because if it is not in the interest of public order, if it is not about a game of skill, if it is not about an interstate trade or commerce, then why should we allow online money gaming and spoil our youth? That's the pitch of the government. What's your view on that? You can also discuss with me in the comment box below. The question here says, consider the following statements with regards to Online Gaming Bill 2025. 1. It prohibits all forms of real money gaming in India. 2. The bill was preceded by a draft consultation released by the Ministry of Electronics and IT, the mighty ministry. 3. Gambling and betting are listed under union list in the Constitution. A very easy question. You can pick out the right answer and try to post it in the comment box. And now to the last article for the day, very short article, page 13 again. Another government bill is coming. The government is passing another bill. This is about allowing various stakeholders, leaseholders, landholders in India to carry on rare earth mining. Now, this is a very sensitive issue. On the one hand, we have a need. We need self-sufficiency in rare earth materials called REMs because, as I have told multiple times, China dominates the market. Apart from China, there are a few other countries like Chile, Australia. They have some reserves also, but India doesn't have as much. We need them. We need them because today rare earth metals are used in semiconductors, AI chips, electronic vehicles, computers, cell phone batteries. We can't work without them. Substances like lithium, cobalt, we need them. But what to do? We are exporting them. We are importing them. We have a need. We can't produce on our own. The problem is When you depend too much for something on other countries, you will always obviously be facing some kind of a supply shock all the time. China keeps doing that. And anyway, self sufficiency is needed given the large growth of Indian economy and the demand of electronic vehicles as well as semiconductors, mobile phones, and all of that. So we have to do some kind of domestic mining of rare earth material. Today, the government is allowing, yes, the public to come, the landholders to come and allow and give and it is giving them the permission to do mining for 24 critical minerals and strategic materials. But there is another problem. When you do rare earth material mining, it causes a lot of pollution. Not only air pollution, soil degradation, underground water pollution, lot and lots of gas emissions. We are caught up in that dilemma. Should we go for self sufficiency in REM mining and become Atmanirbhar? Or is it a dangerous step because it will further lead to ecological degradation at a very fast pace? That's the pitch of this article. Let's quickly see what the article says. Now, India is now moving towards clean energy. We just saw zero net carbon emission by 2070 is our goal. Definitely, we need to move towards electronic vehicles, solar batteries, and all of that. What to do? We need to depend on materials like lithium, cobalt, nickel, and other rare earth materials. Globally, the supply chain is dominated by China. We cannot depend on China. We already have seen that. So the government has allocated 34,000 crore rupees into creating the National Critical Mineral Mission in order to liberalize, allow more private sector, allow many more stakeholders in doing domestic mining of rare earth and critical minerals. So, therefore, this new bill has been passed. The purpose of the bill is that now these landholders, private companies, will be allowed to mine 24 other rare earth materials, including lithium, cobalt, nickel. Already they are doing some, they can further expand their operations. Then there is no need to pay any additional tax to the government. This is a incentive the government is giving to the private sector. Similarly, the government will also try to promote a trading of minerals through mineral exchanges, just like commodity exchange platforms. The purpose is to identify 24 very important rare earth materials and incentivize private companies to go and mine them. What do we need at the end of the day? Self sufficiency. The more we mine, the better it is for us. Of course, it is coming at a risk of climate in danger, but then we are caught up right now. How this evolves, we are yet to see. But as of now, it is purely the need of the hour. Okay, it is definitely important, as I said, to meet the target of zero carbon emission by 2070. Global competition says apart from China, there is US, European Union, Japan, who are also trying to develop their own independence in terms of critical mineral mining because they also don't want to depend on China anymore. So all these countries are now trying to be self-sufficient. It is quite in line with Atmanirbhar Bharat. It will encourage private companies. It will allow more foreign direct investment. With regards to climate setbacks, that is yet to be investigated. So that's all for today's article coverage. A quick question. With reference to the Mines and Minerals Amendment Bill that we talked about, 2025, which of these statements is true or are true? One, it allows mining leaseholders to add critical minerals like lithium, cobalt, nickel to their existing operations without any additional fine or fees. Two, the bill has renamed the earlier existing National Mineral Exploration Trust. Three, it empowers the union government to create mineral exchanges by promoting more transparent trading of rare earth minerals. Which of these are valid? It's an easy question. You can post your comment when you want to answer the question. If you want to discuss anything, you want an elaborate discussion on anything, do let me know in the comment box. And if you feel benefited by the Hindu session, then do not forget to like, share, subscribe, Study IQ English. Thank you so much for today's session. See you tomorrow for another such interesting coverage. And that's a valid answer, Mamta. That's a valid answer. Okay? Okay, we'll discuss the answers in tomorrow's session.